police say the men who were shot in the head at point-blank range in this remote farmland near Chelmsford had driven into a carefully planned trap. At this stage, they've no definite leads on who murdered them.
Murder of Mr. Muscles. Drugs gang execution victim Patrick Tate was exactly what he looked. A ruthless, gun-toting underworld enforcer. An armed robber and drug dealer, Burley Tate was built like a heavyweight boxer. His life revolved around the three Bs: bodybuilding, blonde lover and blaggins. But his imposing physical appearance and fearless reputation was not enough to save him and two other members of his drug gang. Craig Rolfe and Tony Tucker, a former bodyguard to boxer Nigel Benn, were shot dead with him in a Range Rover on a farm track near Rettendon, Essex. Police believe their execution is part of a drugs war. The three men are thought to have crossed gangland families, known as the Untouchables, who have formed a national mafia-style alliance to control Britain's $3 billion drugs trade. Tattooed Tate, 37, made enemies behind bars for sucking up to prison officers. One ex-con pal said he just worked his ticket, never got in any trouble, and was friendly with screws. The hardcore cons hated him, but at Swaleside prison, Pat never really had any problems. His reputation and physique were enough to scare other prisoners away from him. Everyone knew he wasn't scared of trouble, and he knew how to use a shooter. Silent cons are often the ones with the biggest reputation outside. He would spend all day pumping iron in the gym. It was his only hobby. He was built like a brick outhouse. The only other thing he was interested in was his girlfriend. She was an absolutely gorgeous blonde from Essex. Another lag said, Tate and Tony Tucker had fearsome reputations. They were not to be messed with. Whoever took them out must have had a lot of bottle or been a very powerful underworld figure. Before being sent down, Tate staged a Great Escape style motorbike getaway after knocking out his escort in court at Billericay, Essex. Helped by friends who blocked his pursuers, Tate ran from the court and jumped on a high-powered Honda motorbike waiting outside. The 140 mph machine roared off through the crowded high street. The dead men are thought to have taken on the 12 key families behind the drugs trade and lost. The family's empire stretches from the Channel ports to Glasgow and dwarfs the operations of the Cray and Richardson gangs of the 1960s. In London, Liverpool, Newcastle and Glasgow, factions have brought up hotels, pubs and clubs to act as outlets for their drugs, and they have secured control over the supply in a string of smaller cities. Interpol in London said the criminal network had set up bases overseas with properties in Spain, Holland and the Canary Islands. They are masterminding drug shipments and strengthening links with the Colombian cocaine cartels and Turkish heroin syndicates. Rolfe, Tucker and Tate met at the Orset Cock pub near Tilbury, Essex car park hours before they were murdered. They were discussing their move into big-time drug dealing. Their execution had been ordered by a drugs baron who already controls the South East Essex turf. The trio may have believed they were on their way to buy part of a drugs haul which was dropped regularly by light aircraft in fields around Brentwood, Essex. A pub regular said, I saw them meet up and watched them drive off shortly after 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Whoever was waiting for them may well have had a tip-off from the pub. All these drug dealers carry mobile phones to do their business. I've heard they were trying to start their own drugs trade with profits made from an earlier drop. Detective Superintendent Ivan Dibley, leading the hunt for the killers, believes the drugs war has broken out. He said these men were moving into the drugs field. They were involved in all sorts of drugs. They were more than just street dealers, and it may well be that other drug dealers are trying to maintain a higher power. Within days of being released from jail for armed robbery, 18-stone Tate was shot near his home in Basildon, Essex. His two pals were also thought to be living in fear for their lives. Last night detectives were still hunting the Mr. Big who ordered the shooting. Mr. Dibley said he feared the gangland execution will escalate into more shooting incidences across the southeast. When 3 men who were involved in drug dealing are taken out of the scene, somebody will inevitably try to fill the void that has been created, he said. Because of that, there could be more violence. Tucker lived in a luxury £150,000 bungalow at Fob in Essex. The property boasts stables, a double garage, a basketball court and a security system. Rolfe, 26, lived in a £100,000 4-bedroom detached home in the posh Chafford 100 estate in Grays. Neighbour Liz LePage, 22, said, I don't think Craig had a job. I never saw him go to work. I always wondered what he did for a living. I'm not surprised at what happened. The police are always calling round here. Tate lived in a £90,000 three-bedroom semi in nearby Basildon. Tears for victim Donna Jaggers, the mother of Craig Rolfe's 6-year-old daughter, broke down yesterday at a press conference organised by the police. The drug dealer's 26-year-old common-law wife sobbed, "I just want anyone who knows anything to come forward. We need all the help we can get." Detective Chief Superintendent Ivan Dibley dismissed reports that the gangland execution had been sparked by a feud over who supplied drugs to Essex ecstasy victim Leah Betts. Crooks Dodgy Motors. The Range Rover in which the three men died was bought 2 weeks ago by victim Craig Rolfe, who shared his pal's passion for motors. A neighbour in Grays, Essex said yesterday he always seemed to have different cars on his drive, as if he was a car dealer. There were rumours he was involved with stealing cars and selling drugs. One time I saw the police literally dismantling a car on his drive. Rolfe, 26, shared a 3-bedroom detached house with girlfriend of 7 years Donna Jaggers and a 6-year-old daughter. They moved into the £80,000 home on the Chafford 100 estate about 18 months ago. A woman living nearby said the couple seemed quite secretive. They always kept their curtains drawn and had little contact with the neighbours. She added, "We sometimes saw them walking their dog, but on the whole they were rarely to be seen." She added, "Just a week ago there was a police pickup truck outside his home. And about 6 months ago the house seemed to be the subject of police surveillance. We saw men sitting in cars outside the house on several occasions. Several neighbours remembered seeing the blue Range Rover in which the men were found dead. Yesterday, Rolfe's house, set on the end of a row of 4 homes, was deserted and the curtains closed." Another victim of gang gunmen. The ruthless killer who gunned down the 3 Essex drug dealers at close range has claimed another victim. The father of one of the gangland victims died of a heart attack when relatives broke the news of Tony Tucker's death. Mr. Ronald Tucker, 63, of Folkestone, Kent, collapsed on hearing that his 38-year-old son was one of the 3 underworld villains, slain in a Retterdon farm lane. Superintendent Ivan Dibley, heading the triple murder inquiry, described Ronald Tucker's death as a family tragedy. He said, "It just shows you where the tentacles of a murder inquiry can lead. Detectives investigating the triple killing are looking for connections with the shooting at St Andrew's Hospital, Billericay, in October, when a patient was blasted with a shotgun carried by a man dressed as a clown. Now police fear revenge attacks as other gang leaders try to muscle in on the lucrative drugs action." Superintendent Dibley appealed to criminals to help them nail the killer who shot dead Tony Tucker of High Road Fobbin, Patrick Tate, 37, and 26-year-old Craig Rolfe of Cowshot Avenue, Chafford 100, on Wednesday. He urged the underworld to call the incident room with any information on the dealers who paid the ultimate price for their evil ways. Donna Jaggers, 26, Rolfe's girlfriend of 7 years, and mother of their 6-year-old daughter, made a tearful appeal for help to trace the killer. She said, "I would just like anyone who was with them that afternoon who knows anything about what happened to them to just come forward." But as more is revealed of the sinister world of the tough gangsters, neighbours were remaining tight-lipped. For former convict Patrick Tate, the successful attempt on his life was not the first. He survived a murder attempt in April when he was shot at his Gordon Road, Basildon home. A shotgun-toting gunman opened up at point-blank range, and the tattoo-wearing villain's upper arm was blasted. He was treated at hospital. Neighbours of Tony Tucker also had nothing to say about the shady character who acted as a minder for middleweight boxing champion Nigel Benn. The murdered 3 had supplied ecstasy at Raquel's in Basildon, where the lethal drug which killed Leah Betts was brought.